say anything?
Yeah. Should we just go on and we are? I'll just put this one. Tell me when, right? We're on now? Good. Ready? Oh, sorry. Geez, everybody, hey, welcome. Mike Bolsa along with Dwayne Etienne. Tim Ringhofer, of course, on the floor. The Master of Ceremonies here for the 11th Annual Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony. Of course, individually, Tony Kern, member of the 1963 through 65 boys hockey team. Gary Davison, graduate of 1961. Boys basketball, went on to play at McAllister. Jeff Lindvall, hockey player and golf. Jeff actually won the 1971 boys golf single one class championship. Unheard of, coming from International Falls and winning the state championship golf. And of course, Dan Malley, known as the right wing for Tim Sheehy back in the 1964 through 66 Bronco dynasty. So. And then the teams, the 1964 Bronco hockey team, the last of the three, 64, 65, 66 teams to get in. And, of course, the 1972, led by Jim Knapp and Craig Dahl, state championship team, is also inducted. So, well-deserved, and I guess a lot of my heroes are here tonight, Dwayne, and I grew up watching the 71, 72, 73 Bronco hockey teams when I was a young peewee in high school, in International Falls, and boy, some great hockey players in here tonight, and it's been a good time. So we will be getting some interviews here. People are eating right now, but we will be back in a few minutes here. But I'll wind up some, hopefully some good interviews, and we'll be back here in a little bit. And we're back. Thank you for joining us. Sorry for the technical difficulties. The Wi-Fi is not real strong here, and we are fighting that issue. We'll do the best we can, but it's a joyous occasion here tonight. Of course, the 11th annual Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame inductees. Of course, going through it real quick again is Tony Kern, Gary Davison, Jeff Lindvall, and Dan Malley as far as individuals. And the teams of 1964 State High School Hockey Tournament team, the first of the three straight tournaments, teams in 64, 65, 66. And of course, a few years later, of course, the 1972 State High School Hockey champions. And they're sitting right here in front of me. David Brown can hardly wait to go on. I'm going to have him on first, I think. As he shakes his head. No, Dwayne. Probably one player individually. I've been harping on Ringhofer. If you want an individual player, I mean, there's three that I have in mind. You have Oscar Malley, Tim Sheehy, and David Brown. Okay, those are the three best players ever to put a Bronco uniform on, as far as I'm concerned. As far as Larry Ross is concerned as well, because Larry and I had that conversation, and Larry said in no particular order, Michael. He said Tim Sheehy, Oscar Malley, and David Brown were the three best players I ever coached. So tough though. I mean, it's not an easy job on that Hall of Fame committee. The first couple of years was easy, right? I mean, you got Bronco, you got Uso, you got Huffer, you got Tim Sheehy. Of course, those were the easy years. Now it's going to continue to get tougher, and we'll see what awaits everybody. Of course, the 11th annual, and this is the way it's going. I mean, this is a lifetime thing, and it's a great thing to bring all these old Bronco players back. One basketball player. Otherwise, this is a loaded hockey group this year. And Gary Davison, kind of my neighbor, and I talked to his daughter Pam earlier, and they were real proud of their dad. And Gary, good family man. Good husband, good dad, and good for our community. And not only was he good at basketball, he was good at pretty much anything. I remember bowling with him, and he was one of the best bowlers in International Falls at the time I was bowling, and just a great guy, and of course dearly missed. Wish he was here tonight. I'm going to try to get a couple players here, Dwayne, and we'll come back after that, and I think I'll grab that mic, and we'll see what happens. Well, welcome back to the 11th annual Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony. Joining me now, Jim Knapp, class of 72 captain, along with Craig Dahl. How you doing?
I'm doing great. What an event. This is awesome.
Yeah, congratulations, and hopefully we'll get you in on an individual basis, but I think the team one's a little more important anyways, isn't it?
You know what? We had that discussion last night, and it was like there's nothing better than hooking arms and all walking in together. I mean, because it was a team effort. We depended on every player that was on the team, and especially going from 12-minute periods to 15 and then 17. Well, 15-minute periods, now you needed a third line, and they got a lot of playing time, and they did. I mean, I wouldn't even call them a third line. They scored a lot of big goals for us.
Yeah, and I remember the depth of that team was your strength. You had Jimmy Jurgensen. I think he was probably your third-line center, but he had a remarkable state tournament, as did everybody. But Jimmy Jurgensen was a key part of that team.
Yes, well, we had, and on that line, Paulie Brown, 10th grader.
Not all bad.
He made all-state tournament team. I mean, that's not bad. You know, for what they call the third. So we really didn't have a third line, not even a fourth line. I mean, there was players all the way up and down that lineup. That was awesome.
Yeah, and you also had the big defense. You talked earlier at Hardy's, your defenseman core. I mean, every one of you, like said, you were the smallest one at about 6'1", 190 pounds. Who else do you have back on that blue line?
Well, Cal Sandbeck, who didn't have a bad college career and pro career, and Jim Lundquist, Paul Green.
Who was a 72 graduate, correct?
72 graduate.
Very good. Went to St. Louis.
Yeah, went to St. Louis, and then myself. So and then Stevie Johnson was the little kid.
Yeah,
he was a good D.
Yeah, he was. So 5 very good D. We talk about that all the time. And of course, I watched you, our whole group who graduated in the late 70s. I mean, you were the reason we all played, and that's kind of how you guys looked at it. When you guys watched the 64, 65, 66 team, that's where you wanted to be, and that's where you wanted to go.
We would go down to the 8th Street rink, and we wanted to be the Huffer or the Kern, or I mean, we wanted to be those people, and every time that we went down there, we became them. Yeah. In our own minds, anyways.
That's who you were, right on the ice.
That's right. Yeah.
Guess what? I got another guy joining me, one of your defensive partners. I don't know if you played with Lunker, but
we was in that group. Yeah.
Number 5, and we're going to bring him in next. Jimmy Knapp, class 72 captain. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Dwayne. We'll bring on Jim Lundquist, and that'll be a whole different game with Jim. Different personalities than Jimmy Knapp, and so it should be fun. We'll see what Jim does a little broadcasting. Yeah. You know what these are?
Yeah. This is what I had when I gave my deposition. Yeah.
Joining me now, Jim Lundquist, class of 73.
We're not under oath, are we?
No, we're not.
Okay,
I'm a little biased towards that 73 team. I love that 72 team got in. And that 73 team was loaded.
We had the best looking guys.
And you led that group. Of course, David Brown, Al Karsny, Wasilowicz.
I like to think of it as rugged good looks.
It was very rugged. What's your fond memories of that set?
Well, the worst of it here is I was supposed to sit at this table.
I know you were. I see your name right over there.
And then kicked me out. You got
the young guys booted.
You know what the young guys bought? You know what happened is, when you're third, fourth string, you don't have much. You don't see the early anymore. I'll tell you.
Of course, Jim Lundquist, a Carson Rupee boy. Of course, a 3-sport athlete. What other sports you play in high school?
Football. I was a linebacker and a fullback in football, and then I played hockey a little bit there.
Okay.
And then I was shot in discus and track.
Well, you were.
We were here 2 years ago when Dick Ostruk he was our track coach. He was the best line I ever heard. He went up there for a speech and he says, "Hey, about time." I loved it.
The 72 state championship team up against Rapids. You guys down 2-1 going into that third period. I'm a cliche guy. What was said in between periods, or did the coach even have to say
I got to
anything?
tell you what was said before the game.
Let's hear it.
We're huddled around the net, right? We're in our huddle there before we go to the EAA team. Let's go. And Craig Dahl looks up at the banner on the end of the rink, and it was Grand Rapids students had put a banner up there. Said, "We beat you in Pee-wees, we beat you in Bantams, and we're going to beat you again in high school." And Dahl looks at me and he goes, "Is that right?" And I said, "Yeah, they did." And Dahl goes, "I don't care, I wasn't on that effing team."
So a lot of times the kids that ended up on the high school team, even a good player on the high school team, didn't make the all-star teams as young kids, did they?
No, that's right. Oh, yeah, Craig, we always called him Ken Yackel, because until he was a freshman in high school when he went to play for Dunn Sampson on the midgets, he never made peewees in Bantam.
No.
Yeah. And we always called him Yackel because he was a hockey camp guy.
But what I do remember about Craig Dahl, probably the hardest working player on the team, wasn't he?
Well, he was. We had Zambiti and Zamboni. Okay, he called me the human Zamboni because every time I'd cut for the net, I'd fall down and clear stretch ice.
Yeah.
And he was the Zambiti because he cleared even bigger stretch ice. I got my junior year in high school. I only scored 4 goals. I scored all 4 of them from right there in that spot where Craig had cleared the rink, right there, just outside of the face-off circle. Yeah. He always had a nice. Well, back then though,
I look at this. Zamboni and Zambini did pretty well. You both ended up going to Ivy League schools. You to Brown University.
Yeah, and he went to that basketball school.
Princeton thing.
Basketball school.
Yeah,
Lindvall went to that basketball school.
Jim Lundquist, thank you very much. He lives in Gillette, Wyoming. So if you're in the area, get a hold of Jim and he'll take you out for supper.
And
right?
Don't forget to give a shout out on your fishing show because we're up the cabin. We're up there from the middle of May to the middle of July.
There you go.
And then we're back again in September.
You give me your number and we'll give you a plug on the show. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yep.
Boy, what a piece of work this guy is. And thank you again, Jim Lundquist. And Dwayne, we're going to take a little break. I'll go see if I can pick up some other characters after talking with Jim Lundquist. We'll be right back. Cue me in. I'm here. Buzzy LaFawn, Mike Olstead. Buzzy, how are you?
I'm fabulous, man.
Good to see you.
Fabulous.
Gosh, you look great. I like the goatee and the.
Well, yeah.
Hey, you did that. You actually shaved it.
Yeah, back when I was 23.
I'm still trying to hide mine. I kind of do the comb-overs. Buzzy LaFawn, of course, a graduate in 1973. I have a fond heart for the 73 team. Maybe even a little more in that 72 team. But 72 team won the state championship. What do you recall from that?
What I recall is it was probably one of the, at that point in time, one of the funnest, most enjoyable events of your life. It was a blast, a lot of hype. International Falls in hockey is quite interesting and fun, so it was great to be there. We were there in 71, 72, and 3, and 72 we had a great team, and it was fun. I played with Paul Brown and Jim Jurgensen, and we had a good line and scored a couple goals
That's
down
a third
there.
line.
That was the best third line.
It was. It was an amazing line. And you made Jimmy Jurgensen a very good player. I'm not saying as a shot to Jimmy.
Right.
Jimmy was a good, solid player.
Oh, yeah.
But, boy, having wings like you and Paulie on the sides had to make him better, right?
Well, yeah, and Jim was a heck of a passer and a hockey player, and he would set us up, and Paulie Brown was a great hockey player. So yeah, we had a good line, and it was fun, and you know, the whole event is something you never forget, and it's really a neat deal to get into the Hall of Fame up here. So it's been a fun night, and you know, it's just been very enjoyable. And I appreciate the people that put this together, and
And the night's
It's
still
been
young,
good.
right?
And the night's still young.
Yes,
I should be in bed by about 9 o'clock, but we're getting old.
I know your old teammate David Brown. He's way past his bedtime. I see him off and on. And,
Well, be good to him. That's my driver now.
oh, it is.
yeah,
You're in
brother.
good hands. You're in good hands. I'm gonna. Well, one more thing before you go. You probably got the nickname when you were younger. Where did you get the nickname Buzzy? That's what everybody calls you.
Nobody ever called me Robert John LaFawn Jr. for most of my life, but my mother, when I was a day old, wanted a son named Buzz. So my older brother my dad must not have let it happen for my older brother, but since I was a junior, she didn't want people to call me Junior, so I was a day old and she called me Buzz, and it
So from the
stuck.
get-go.
Yep.
So I'll tell you something about myself. When I went to college, out of Providence, that was my nickname. They called me Buzz.
Really?
You know why?
Why?
Because I wore contacts and it looked like I was high all the time. So I got the nickname Buzz. I said, I don't even know what that stuff is. And that's where I got my nickname from all my teammates.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of stuck in.
Well, most people wonder how I got it too.
Exactly. Buzzy LaFawn, a great player, great teammate, and of course
Hey,
a member of that 72
great talking
team.
to you.
Great
Good to
talking
be here,
Buzz.
pal.
Yep.
All right.
Take care.
Yep.
Dwayne, we're going to take it out. I'll go try to find another very good hockey player. All right, we're back. Is my volume okay, Dwayne? Okay. Craig Dahl, captain of the 1972 team, and how are you?
I'm doing great.
Great, you having a good time?
It's been fantastic. Yeah, I think our class, we all regret we haven't had more chances to interact during the year, during the years, and so I think it's been fun for everyone.
And you guys were out at the Thunderbird last night and heard just a great group. I don't know when the Mason brothers were going out there, I probably would have joined them because it sounded like a great evening.
Yeah, it really was, and I mean, then we were all shocked at Tim Sheehy. Looks like he's 35 years old. It's like, holy cow.
I think he just shows up to make us all look
I think make us look bad, but yeah, and having him tell stories, and that book that was written about the streak, I think all of us that have seen it really, appreciate a lot more what it took to win 59 in a row. That's
agree.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's no mistake, and I look back at all the generations. I graduated in 79, and of course you guys, we looked up to. I mean, we didn't quite make the state. We had to go through Rapids, and we got second place every year. But you guys got the pleasure of watching all the guys from 64, 65, 66. How much do you think that influenced the guys on your team?
I'm going to make a little talk tonight for just representing our team, and I think it's a big part of it. It's like, first of all, believing you can do it. I mean, and then kind of turning it on to, hey, we should do it. Not we can, we should. And I think that we played with that as a goal. Now, my junior year, we lost to Roseau in the semis, and then won the third place game. And Paulie Brown said last night, that third place game isn't a fun game to play.
Yeah.
It's just like. We won it, but still, it wasn't something that we were. But it set the table for 72 because nothing that happened was a surprise. Everything, we'd already been down that path. Now there was one surprise. So the region tournament my senior year was played in Duluth, and so Ross was always looking ahead. So he scheduled a game in Duluth against Denfeld. And then a week before the game, they called us and said, oh, there's a scheduling conflict. The games, you're now going to play in Superior. And Superior had a funky rink, had glass boards and stuff. And so it didn't represent at all what we were hoping to get out of that Duluth game. But anyway, that's just kind of, remember the Duluth versus Iron Range.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was 10 years in a row where the Iron Range won every inter-conference playoff game in a row, so.
And it actually caused the back door to be gone.
Yeah.
Duluth politically took care of that, so they got their own segment,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
So,
I know.
Of course, Craig Dahl, captain of the 1972 team, along with Jim Knapp. Real quick, I think one of the best-led teams as far as a team goes, maybe in Bronco history. You guys, you're the senior class was a good class, but you guys had a lot of really good players from 73.
Yeah,
so you guys kind of helped them.
Yeah, I played, with Dave Brown and Al Carsley. They were both juniors, and we, played on a line together. Our defense, we had Paul Green and Jim Knapp were the upperclassmen, but then Jim Lundquist and Cal Sambeck. Cal was only a sophomore. I mean, so. And Pete, we started playing with Pete when we were in midgets. I mean, you have no idea when I started playing, in college and other teams, how the goalies were, But and the other thing it was, the game was a little different. There was no checking in the offensive end, and icing was your own blue line, not the red line. So you had a chance to play the puck and go after it. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Bernsey. Bernsey came in 71 and instituted a much more pressure offense and much more pace, and also, more pressure on the forecheck. And, we scored a lot of goals because, we were quicker, and we scored a lot of goals on the rush too, but we did a lot of goals because of the success of that forecheck.
Creating turnovers, a little more aggressive. And
then once you did, boom. Then the goalie's not ready, and it changes the whole thing.
And I'm glad you brought his name up because I think everybody who played with Coach Ross understood the importance of Bernsey being around. And, Bernsey was a hard nose. He would get right in the corners with you and smack you around.
Well, yeah. And
tell us a little bit about what he did with you guys.
Well, my dad, I came home one night, and I got a T-shirt on, or my dad said, what happened to your arm? I said, we were doing a back checking drill, and it was Burnsy was slashing me. And he said, what? I said, yeah, it was just a back checking drill. But he participated, he led by example, and the pressing the pace and force on that forecheck, that was a big part of it.
Well, it looks like we're going to start the ceremony. Craig Dahl, pleasure.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike.
Take care.
Thanks.
Craig Dahl, 1972 championship team. Also went to Princeton, not a bad gig for Craig Dahl. Dwayne, back to you.
The Bronco Cribbage Board, donated by Hell's Custom Designs. The last name is Noland. I'm not sure the first name, but Mike, there you go, Mike Nolan, okay. The Viking pillowcases and couch pillows, I'm going with that's RJ. That's all I was, right? Of course. So, he knows. All right, here's the North Road Soap Company basket. We believe it's Terra Sailor. We've been debating. Sailor, is that correct? Terra Sailor, are we saying that right? Okay. The Hoot and Holler print, donated by Pete and Lynn Fitchuk, Dan Malley. The Wisconsin jersey, donated by Buzzy Christensen, Melody Boleyn. The Michigan Tech jersey, donated by Buzzy Christensen, Sue Frake. The Serrano print and easel, donated by Karen Ackelstead in memory of Larry Roach, Audrey Roach. The signed miniature hockey stick, donated by Audrey Roach. It looks like Knapp to me. N Knapp? Yes? She knows who she is. There we go. The cornhole game also has the name Knapp on it. No first name, just the name Knapp. So you can pay for that one too. All right? Fair enough. Okay. The Hall of Fame sweatshirt, size large, Audrey Roach. The Hall of Fame sweatshirt XL, Robin Dahl. And the double XL one goes to Tara Sailor, right? All right, there's your prizes. So you can pick those up and you can look for Chris. She'll have all the pertinent information. Thank you, everybody. Oops, I missed one. Thank you, everybody, for participating. And again, that helps us to put on these activities. Before we get into our inductions, I skipped over a name in our Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame committee because he isn't here this evening, and I skipped over and forgot to mention that Pete Fitchuk, who is a member of the 64 hockey team, is also a member of the committee. So a round of applause for Pete, please. Thank you. Our first inductee tonight is Tony Kern. Tony Kern has already been inducted into the Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame as a member of the 1964-65 hockey team, and will be one of a handful of people who have or will be inducted twice in the same evening, as the 63-64 hockey team will be inducted later this evening. One thing that I know about Tony is that he's still very active. If you call Tony and he doesn't answer, you know that he was out doing something athletic. When he does call you back, his response is, oh, I was out on a 5-mile inline skating trip, or I was at the rink playing old-timers hockey. It's always something athletic he's out doing, and obviously being a graduate of West Point, I'm sure those are things that he still enjoys doing. Here's what's written on Tony's plaque, and you can follow along in the program if you like. Tony Kern was born on March 7th, 1947 in Renton, Washington, but grew up in International Falls from a very young age. As a Bronco, Tony was a 7-time letter winner, 2 times in football, 3 times in hockey, and 2 times in track and field. Tony was a quarterback of the football team that was the Iron Range Conference champions in 1963 under the direction of Coach Butch Larson. Individual football honors included co-captain in 1964, all Iron Range Conference honorable mention in 1963, and all Iron Range Conference first team quarterback in 1964. Tony was a member of the 1963 Bronco hockey team that was state runner-up, and a member of the 1964 and 1965 teams that were Minnesota State High School champions. Tony was a major contributor to those teams' 59-game winning streak and was selected to the All Iron Range Conference and state tournament teams. Tony was also a sprinter and a relay runner for the track and field teams. Tony graduated from Falls High School in 1965 in the top 20 academically. Following graduation, Tony received an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York, where he continued to excel academically and athletically. His freshman year, he and his 2 line mates smashed the academic Frosh scoring records. He had 3 years of varsity hockey eligibility and scored 176 points in 79 games. At the time of his graduation, many of his seasonal and career hockey statistics were at or near the top of West Point and NCAA records. In a scrimmage at West Point against the New York Rangers from the NHL, Kern stole the puck from Hall of Famer Bernie Boom Boom Jeffrion and skated in on Hall of Fame goalie Eddie Giacomon, slipping the puck behind him into the back of the net to the roar of the Army crowd. Tony graduated from West Point in 1969 in the top half of his class with a Bachelor of Science degree and the rank of 2nd lieutenant. In 1970, Tony married the love of his life, Shelley, and they have a daughter, Sean, and 2 grandchildren. Kern spent 11 years on active duty in the U.S. Army and then completed his military service in the Army Reserves, spending a total of 26 years in the military before retiring as a lieutenant colonel. During his career, he served in Germany, received a master's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Minnesota, and served on the DMZ between North and South Korea. After returning stateside, he was assigned as an exchange officer instructor at the United States Naval Academy, teaching electrical engineering to the midshipmen. He retired from active duty in 1980, but continued his military service in the Army Reserves while starting a 22-year career as a manager engineer at IBM in Essex Junction, Vermont. After retiring in 2002, he continues to stay active by inline skating and playing hockey. Ladies and gentlemen, accepting Tony's induction on his behalf is Bronco Athletic Hall of Famer Buzzy Christensen.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I think Tony did okay, you know. No. Tony, he, due to a medical event, wasn't able to make it, so he had, do I have to turn up a little bit? Closer. A little closer? Okay. Due to a medical event, Tony had to cancel at the last minute, but he certainly was hoping to be here. This is a special occasion, obviously, for many of us. I am going to not ad-lib too much. I'm going to go right to Tony's speech. What an honor it is to be an inductee into the Bronco Hall of Fame, both as an individual and a member of a team. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for the time and effort they have given to make this event possible. Welcome to all the Bronco fans in attendance. Congrats to the fellow inductees, the 1964 team, the 1972 team, Jeffrey Lindvall, Gary Davison, and my teammate Dan Malley, who I had to practice against Monday through Thursday for 2 years. He was a left wing and I was a right wing. I would sit in class all day long contemplating how I could avoid him in practice without appearing like a wimp. I'd like to acknowledge my wife, Shelley. One of the best things to happen to me because of hockey was an introduction to the love of my life, Shelley, who was a West Point hockey fan while growing up. We just celebrated our 53rd anniversary, and she told me if I didn't include this in my speech, there would not be a 54th. I've been very fortunate to play with many great centers throughout my hockey career. Dave Murhar at West Point for 4 years, and Peter Fitchuk on youth teams and high school. I need to thank Peter for his involvement in getting together my nomination packet and collecting recommendation letters from several teammates to submit to the committee. Thanks, Peter. Peter, Keith Boleyn, and I played on a line together for 3 years in high school. We had a great chemistry and complemented one another. Pete was a fantastic skater and a great center iceman. With Pete, it was never about individual accolades. Yet he was named to 2 WCC All-State teams and an all-tournament team, and is in the Hall of Fame and is a Hall of Fame inductee. His focus was always on team accomplishments, and he was the ultimate warrior. Keith was my best friend and a great team player. He was an excellent sniper and always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. He led the 65 team in goals scored with 36 in 27 games. He was low-key and a good match for our line. Peter and I were more hyper and competitive, and Keith balanced out our intensity. Unfortunately, Keith lost his battle with cancer 9 years ago. Not a day goes by I don't think of him. His wife, Melody, class of 1966, is sitting over there with grandchild, Emily. His younger brother, Mike, is on the 72 team and is being inducted with the 72 team. The only thing Keith would not do is he never switched positions during practice with me, so consequently, I had to go up against Danny all the time. While growing up the town had 4 rinks, 8th Street and 11th Street, Ban Shell and Carson Loopy, all of which sponsored youth hockey teams. Pete and I played together on the 11th Street rink. I have a photo of a hockey team when I was in 6th grade, and that photo actually has passed up on the screen a few times. But there were 9 future Broncos on that picture that was taken back in 6th grade, and it included Chet Wagner. Tony likes to talk about Chet, who was Pete Fitchuk's uncle, and he is a member of the recently inducted 1946 football team, was the caretaker at 11th Street Rink. He was instrumental in feeding the Bantam and high school programs. I don't believe he ever played hockey or even skated, but Chet wore boots around the rink. He knew how to motivate and develop young talent. I would not be here on this stage if it was not for him. Also, I need to mention Bill Howard and Elder DeMarkey, who were the city recreational directors while we were growing up. We were always there. They were always there for us in youth baseball, football, and basketball. Both are already in the Hall of Fame. I want to talk briefly about 2 of my close neighborhood friends and teammates, Larry Roach and Marshall Sether. Larry was older, so he goes first. His wife Audrey is here tonight. Larry was the one who anointed the line, the Cotton Rockets. I guess he thought we were fast, but did not possess the Gary Wood type bullet slap shot. Larry was a tremendous athlete and a teammate. He was a 4-year varsity goaltender from 1961 to 64 and the fullback on the football team. I would like to tell you about Larry's drop kick in his senior year playing football. We had a great record, 8-1, and won the Iron Range Conference Championship with a 6-0 win against Virginia on the road. By the way, there was a great interception by Johnny Thompson in our end zone in the last minute of play. However, the season highlight for me was what I call the kick. And it was an extra point drop kick made by Larry. How he convinced Coach Larson to attempt this is a mystery to me. I am sure we had the game pretty well in hand, but I was a quarterback and didn't know what to do, how to call the play in the huddle, and we never practiced it. There was total confusion in the backfield, where to stand and who was going to call the count for hiking the ball. I am sure the opponents thought we were going to run the ball with a direct snap to the fullback. Surprise, surprise. We hiked the ball to Larry, and he drop kicks it for the extra point. I remember turning to congratulate him on that kick. He looked at me straight in the eye and he says, "No problem, Tony." I'm certain that it never entered his mind about what would happen if he had missed it. I wasn't shocked that he made it. As kids, we used to play a game in the neighborhood streets where we would throw, punt, or drop kick a ball, and you would accumulate points depending on the difficulty. Larry always got big points and represented the 8th and 9th Street gang well. This could very well have been the only drop kick made for an extra point in the history of Minnesota State High School football. Next up is Marshall Sether. His wife Nan and son Todd are in the audience. Todd was the goalie on the 1995 state championship team. When will they go into the Hall of Fame? Marshall was a very talented, stout, stayed-home type player, defenseman for 3 years. The term stayed home means he seldom jumped into the play offensively. The story begins with the quarterfinal game of the 1964 state championship. We had to play Duluth East in the opening round. It was the rubber match between the two teams. Yours truly misses a breakaway scoring opportunity off the opening faceoff. Later in the game, with the score tied 1-1, I had the puck in front of the net, looked over to my left. There was Marshall. He was standing there uncovered 5 feet from the net. Brand new territory for him. I passed him the puck. He buried it and go ahead and the winning goal. He always had my back. By scoring that goal, my missed breakaway was forgotten forever. Okay, lastly, I have to acknowledge my high school and college coaches for whom I am forever grateful. Football head coach Butch Larson and assistants Jim Larson and Wayne Hagelin. Track and field coach Rod Max, hockey coach Larry Ross, and assistant Kevin Kennedy. For many years I have been asked what made Coach Ross so successful. He had great people skills and he knew how to get the best out of the players. We always felt comfortable around him and he knew what buttons to push when we needed a little motivation. I remember an incident my senior year at the 1965 state tournament. We were playing Roseau in the quarterfinals. After the second period, we had a 2-1 lead, but we really weren't having one of our better games. We had gone to the locker room at the St. Paul Auditorium. At the time, those locker rooms were just cubicles, canvas curtains separating the teams. While I was lacing my skates, I heard a noise, and Coach Ross, a man of few words, sent a chair flying across the room, kind of Bobby Knight-like, and it hit the canvas. Nobody was injured, but the message was received loud and clear by everyone in the room. It was a wake-up call that we needed, and we went on to beat Roseau 5-3, followed up with victories over South St. Paul 5-1, and then Bloomington 7-0, and took home the state championship trophy again. I'd like to end by saying it's an honor. It's an honor to be sharing the locker room with great Bronco Nagurski and all the other inductees. Yeah, thank you on behalf of Tony.
Thank you, Buzzy. Our next inductee is Gary Davison. Gary was a three-sport athlete, but I'd like to focus on his basketball accomplishments, if I may. Gary was a 3-year letter winner for the Bronco basketball team and was a member of 2 teams that were Region 7 runner-ups in 1959 and 1961. The Bronco basketball team in those 3 seasons had a combined record of 50 and 15, and Gary was a big reason for that. During the regular season for his senior season, Gary averaged 18.5 points and 13.9 rebounds per game. Best of all, in many people's eyes, as I look to George Frake in the audience, he will love this, he was an above average, a very good free throw shooter, and for a big man, you need to do that. Gary was the only player to score in double figures for the Falls in the 1961 Region 7 championship game against the eventual state champion, Duluth Central. Here's what is written on Gary's plaque. Gary Keenan Davison was born March 5th, 1943 in International Falls. As a Bronco, Gary was an 8-time letter winner, 3 times in football, 3 times in basketball, and 2 times in baseball. Gary played quarterback, defensive back, and split end in football, and was most known for his speed. Gary played forward along with center on the basketball team and was known for his rebounding skills. Gary was a captain of the basketball team his senior year and was a member of the District 27 champion team in 1960-61, which lost to eventual state champion Duluth Central in the regional final. Gary was named All-Iron Range Conference in 1960 and 1961, and All-State in 1961. Gary was a pitcher and center fielder in baseball, and most known for his high batting average and speed in the outfield. Gary graduated from Falls High School in 1961. Following high school, Davison continued his athletic career at McAllister in St. Paul, where he was named Conference Freshman Player of the Year in basketball and a member of the All-Conference team in 1962, while leading the team in rebounds. Davison again earned All-Conference honors in 1965, when he again led the team in rebounding and finished his college career averaging 17.6 points per game. Davison had a total of 1,118 points and was number 8 in the all-time scoring when inducted into the McAllister Hall of Fame in 2009. Davison graduated from McAllister in 1965 with a degree in business. After college, Davison and his wife Carolyn owned Park Grocery Store, and he was later elected as the International Falls City Clerk Treasurer, a position he held for 20 years. Davison resided in International Falls when he passed away in August of 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, accepting Gary's induction will be his wife Carolyn and daughter Pamela.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Davison. I was Gary's wife. Oh, way up high. I want to thank the Board of Directors for the Bronco Hall of Fame for this honor, and I really wish Gary was here. And thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Closer. Okay. This is my daughter, Pamela, and I also have a son, Jim Davison, that could not be here tonight. Gary was called Thumper. It was his nickname in basketball. So when the game got very heated or very close, the students out here and the people would cheer Thumper, 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 and stomp their feet on the floor. I think he was called Thumper either because he had his jumping ability or his speed. But the fact is that his parents owned Park Grocery, and that's where Gary worked many of his hours after school. He would clean the lettuce and the celery and things like that, and he'd put all the greens that were not going to be on the item in a box and take it home to his rabbits. And oftentimes before we went on a date, we would take a box out to his rabbits. All the games were played right here on this floor. If you can imagine playing basketball on this floor. I watched games in the past, and I've noticed how some of the students kind of fly into the bleachers. Well, that's not something you're going to do here. I also noticed when Gary played that the young men were very tall and had big feet, and they would kind of turn as the ball went this way and that way against that back wall. During Gary's senior year in basketball, and we've already been told this information, but I'll give it to you again as soon as I find the paper. Broncos made history that year in 1961 by winning both the District 27 and the Iron Range Conference titles. And Gary was then named to the All-State team. On the Bronco team, his senior year, he played with Jim Crone, Dwayne Johnson, Tony Lynch, Dennis Guler, David Bjork, Jerry Emery, Ron Vukolich, Mitch Skeim, Dan Billman, Norman Menzel, and Dwayne Menzel. Gary always loved basketball, His coach was Tom Bergstead, and the assistant coach was Les Hamelanian. That was a year to remember for us. Gary played 4 years at McAllister. He was known for his rebounding and his scores he made. There were no free throws went by that Gary did not really feel bad if the child did not make it. And he drove himself to be very good at free throws. He was inducted into the McAllister Hall of Fame in 2009, and that time he was 8th in their all-scoring record. There were no three-point shots. I have never been athletic, and I was always Gary's bleacher creature. I want to introduce my daughter now. She's going to finish the speech for us. We're very proud of Gary, and we thank you for being here tonight. This is Pamela.
Oh, I get the fun. I get to talk about my dad. This is great. So I think about him, and the only thing that comes to mind is sports, because he was either watching it on TV, he was listening to it on the radio, or he was out in the yard or the front driveway playing basketball. It's what he lived, ate, and breathed. He loved it. And so I remember my mom trying to get his attention when I was a kid, and she'd be like, Gary, I swear if I put numbers on my back, you'd pay attention to me. Literally, she said that. It's hilarious. My dad played City League basketball with many of my friends, and he played until he was 55 years old. And my male friends would tell me, your dad is nasty under the net. His elbows would fly. And that is not surprising to me, because my dad is all about competition. If he's going to play, he wants to win. And there are many reasons and examples I can give you of this, because he was a card player, and I was lucky enough to be taught by him how to play whist. And if I was his partner and I led incorrectly and with the wrong suit, I'd get the eyeball across the table telling me I didn't do it the way he would expect. So he always wanted to win in cards. Dad was also competitive in everything he did. Fishing was another area, of course, he always wanted to win. He'd put himself, he was the guide in the boat, of course. And so he would put himself right over the fishing hole. And then he would keep track. And he would always be the one to catch the most fish. Pretty smart man, actually. My dad was, as my mom said, owned a grocery store. And then he was the city clerk of International Falls for 20 years, and he loved it here. He loved the people, he loved the town, he loved the sports. He still went and watched basketball, even though my brother was far gone. He would go watch young kids at the high school play. I always wondered why he wasn't an announcer, to be honest with you, because I think he would have been awesome. But he was proud to be a Bronco, and he loved representing the city. And I'm really sad that he can't be a part of this, because he would have eaten this up. Thank you again for this honor.
Thank you, Carolyn and Pamela. Our next inductee is Jeff Lindvall. Jeff was a multi-sport athlete, but garnered much of his success as a golfer. Jeff has won 6 Smoky Bear Invitational golf tournaments and was runner-up twice, along with a senior Smoky title. Jeff won the state high school title in 1971, and here is what was written, partly in the Daily Journal, in regards to that title. Bronco athlete Jeff Lindvall made a crucial 15-foot putt on the final hole to tie for medalist honors in last Friday's high school state golf tournament. Lindvall was well aware of what he had to do to gain the tie, as Bill Rislow had been in the clubhouse for about an hour with his score known to the Bronco golf captain. I knew I needed a birdie to tie going into the last hole, Lindvall said, and when the ball fell in, it was a big relief. Just 2 days later, Lindvall won the Falls Country Club annual shortstop with an even par score, beating out a field of 78. Here's what is written on Jeff's plaque. Jeff Lindvall was born January 10th, 1953 in International Falls, Minnesota. As a Bronco, Jeff was a 9-time letter winner, 2 times in football, 3 times in hockey, and 4 times in golf. Jeff started as a safety for the football team for 2 years and was a contributing member of the 1970 Iron Range Conference Championship team. Jeff was a member of the 1968 midget team that were state champions and placed 3rd at nationals, along with being a starter on the 1971 hockey team that placed 3rd at the Minnesota State Hockey Tournament. The 1971 hockey team was Iron Range Conference champions and Region 7 champions. Jeff won the Duluth Ryder Lund Junior Golf Tourney 2 times, along with the Virginia Invitational multiple times. Jeff qualified twice as an individual and was the 1971 Minnesota State High School Golf Champion, played across a single class. Jeff was a band member for 3 years, student council member for 2 years, National Honor Society member for 2 years, and a participant of Boys State. Jeff graduated from Falls High in 1971. After high school, Lindvall attended Princeton University and was a 4-year starter on the golf team and captain his senior year. Lindvall was a 2-time individual qualifier for the NCAA Division I Golf Championship, along with being selected twice for the All-Ivy Golf Team. Lindvall was a 2-sport athlete while at Princeton, played 1 year of hockey. Lindvall graduated from Princeton University in 1975 with an engineering degree. Lindvall was a 6-time Open winner and 1-time senior winner of the Smoky Bear Golf Championship. Lindvall was a multiple-time Falls Country Club champion, along with sharing the long-time course record of 62. In addition to capturing many regional tournaments, Lindvall won the 1971 Minnesota State Public Links Championship and competed in the Minnesota State Amateur Golf Championship, finishing as high as 5th place. Lindvall continues his love for golf and plays many tournaments, along with maintaining a 0 handicap at time of nomination to the Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame. Lindvall spent 35 years with Procter & Gamble Company, retiring in 2010. At the time of his induction, Jeff and his wife Diane reside in Jackson, Tennessee. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Lindvall.
Thanks for the nice introduction, Tim. That was great. Over the years, I've closely followed the selection of folks that are getting into the Bronco Hall of Fame, and have just been absolutely amazed that a town as small as Falls can produce the quality of athletes that have come through the Hall of Fame. State champions for teams, professional athletes, individual state champions, collegiate stars, people that excelled in their sports in high school, and Olympians. To be accepted into the Hall of Fame this evening and join those teams and individuals is truly an honor. Before I begin, I'd like to say congratulations to the other honorees this evening, starting with the 1964 state championship team. And I was sharing with someone earlier today that I feel that one of the prime honors a person can have as a Bronco, in my mind, is winning a state high school hockey championship. The 64 team did that. It was a team I was 11 years old at when they won the tournament. Looked up to that team as a youth, and to this day I can still tell you the numbers of the jerseys of every player on that team if you come up and ask me. Congratulations, guys. The 1972 team, a lot of you sitting back there, congratulations to you as well. You had 1 tournament championship, what an honor. Nearly had 2 of them for a number of the people on that team, finishing in 3rd place in 1971. Great work. Dan, congratulations to you as a member of that team and an individual honoree. I believe that you were on a premier hockey line that ever graced the ice for Bronco hockey. Congratulations. To the Davisons, congratulations to you as well on behalf of Gary. I grew up on 2nd Street and oftentimes would come across the street, sit in that auditorium and watch the high school basketball games. It was a unique time. It's the only stadium or arena I've ever been in where you sit lower than the boys that are playing on the court and watch them running back and forth. Just a unique opportunity. But I would have been about 8 years old when Gary graduated. I remember coming over to games, watching, as you said, in that final team. And then also, although he's not here, Buzzy, if you could convey as well my congratulations to Tony Kern. Tony was, I believe, the first, if not at the forefront, of people that accepted appointments to military academies, be it to the Air Force or to the West Point, using hockey from the Falls, and then later went on to serve his country. So congratulations to Tony and all of the others that are here. Wonderful to be a part of the induction with each of you. I'd like to recognize one other, gee, that was good, person that's here, and that's my wife, Diane. We met in this building in Bacchus in 1967 as 8th graders. Long time ago. We dated for 9 years. We've been married for 48 years. We've had a wonderful life together. We've been blessed with a couple of fine children. Besides all of that, she's been a wonderful partner for me on the golf course. A playing partner, a caddy in my early tournament days. She's lived through all my tournament experience. A person that can take a look at my golf swing and still to this day tell me what looks wrong with it. Can't tell me how to correct it, but she can tell me this doesn't look right. I know what it's supposed to be, and she's right. One of the few people I regularly will take that kind of coaching from. And best of all, we still enjoy spending time together on the golf course. So, congrats to you. To me. There we go. I guess that would be better said. Golf is the sport that brought me into the Hall of Fame. And like a lot of golfers that start playing at a young age, parents tend to start you out. My parents were people that I'm just so indebted to as parents. They started me in the game and nurtured my love of it. And my dad tended to be my primary coach for a long time. But when people ask me how old I was when I started playing, I refer to my time going out as a youngster. I believe I was 5, possibly a little bit younger. My dad would take me out to the golf course. I had a short set of clubs. I'd run along, hit a few balls. When I got tired, I'd jump onto the back of his bag that he'd be pulling up the fairway, rest up a little bit until I got to the next shot. And if I was tired, I'd just catch a ride again. You'll see that picture floating through here. The cart and the bag are what I used to ride on. Besides my dad, my mother Gladys was a key person in my development of golf in a different way. She provided my transportation. She was my early golfing player partner, and she was my primary cheerleader through my entire golfing career and her life. So she was very instrumental. I thought about other people, especially from the Falls, because my golfing career developed real early, and I was able to mature it as I got out of the Falls later on. But people I would say thanks to for what they offered me. And I'm going to offer a couple of groups, especially older boys that allowed me to play with them. I started playing with my dad, my mother a lot, but as you play more and more, you've got to start developing some other folks to play with, both for the competition and also for the fellowship that the game brings. And there are two groups that come to mind, and surprisingly, one of them is comprised of folks from the 64 hockey team. So 64, to my year of 71, it's 7 years difference, there was a group of people that took me in and let me play golf with them. So big time, watching very successful high school boys, but they brought me along. Stevie Ross, Buzzy, and Gary Wood. Those three were very key in helping nurture my love of the game. There's a second set of guys that did the same thing. The two McBrides, Brian and Pat. two of the Nelsons, Bob and Darrell, and John Caveat. That was my game. As I came through the falls, folks, three of you, McBrides and Nelsons and Caveats were really key into helping develop my game. So I wanted to say hello to them and say thank you. The membership of the Falls Country Club would be the last group that I would mention. They provided me access to the club, never chased a young kid off, allowed me as a junior to play an adult tournament, which was really weird. At times, I got to play the ladies' tee when I couldn't hit it over the ditch, for those of you that know the old number 7. They said, you can play in the men's tournament, but tee off from there. Very patient with me in that, and allowed me to use the right side of the current number 1 hole as my long iron practice range, hitting my bag of balls up the course as other people were playing. It was a great environment to grow up and develop golf skills. So thanks to all of you. And finally, I'd like to again say thanks to my wife, Diane, and my 2 children, Brian and Kristen, who both live in Orlando and were not able to make it tonight, for the support they've given me throughout the years I've played golf. Now, I've been fortunate to win a lot of tournaments throughout my life. Enjoyed them. That's what you play golf for. Competition, fellowship, playing against yourself. But I reflect on a couple of tournaments, having some interesting stories behind it. And the first one is the very first tournament that I won as a youth that was an adult tournament. It was played in Fort. It was a typical local one-day shortstop tournament, probably 27 holes. And at the trophy ceremony, I learned they had a unique prize. They had a trophy. They had 6 Carling beer glasses, because this tournament was sponsored by Carling Beer, in a case of Carling. Okay? So they have a dilemma. What do they do with I was 15 when I won that tournament. Okay? So what do they do with the beer? Well, they had a little consult, and they decided not to give it to my dad, which would have been logical, not to open it up and offer everybody that wanted one a bottle of beer, but they kept it for themselves. So the first tournament I won, I lost a case of beer. I still have those Carling beer glasses, 3 of them, broken 3 of them, but I use them on special occasions, and they have some great memories. The most meaningful tournament that I won was the State High School Championship in '71. So I was a senior that year. And it was back in the days of a single class where you had to play district, regional, and then I guess you got to the state at that spot. I'm not sure how many classes they do it for this year, or how you, or this time, or how you get there. But that was the format. Just making it to the regional competition, just making it there was a challenge, because I played that tournament the day after my high school graduation, and the regional tournament was held 250 miles away in Forest Lake. Larry Ross was my coach, Steve's dad. Larry was a great supporter of my golf and my hockey. He always called me Jeffy. The only guy that ever did that was Jeffy every time I saw him. He and my dad got together, and they figured out a way to allow me to attend high school graduation and to make the golf tournament. Larry went and got the school station wagon. They folded down the rear seat of that wagon, laid it out so I could have a sleep on the way down, or try to. And the 3 of us headed down to Forest Lake for the overnight trip after high school graduation. I had an early tee time. Didn't quite do well. Got out of the car, little warm-up, 4-putted the first green. But I made it to the qualification for the state high school tournament. I thought that was a unique way to get into that tournament. I putted really well to win the state tournament. Tim mentioned it, that I made a putt on the very last hole to tie for the individual championship. And I give a lot of credit to Larry for that, but for a strange reason. The tourney was at the youth course. 36-hole, one-day tournament. We were allowed a practice round. Drove down the day before. Larry dropped me off, took off to spend his day elsewhere. Well, I played the practice round, and after the practice round, I headed to the putting green on the front part of the course, facing out by the road in the parking lot, and waited for his return. Well, he didn't show up, so I said, I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to practice and get my stroke down, build my confidence, and get my distance control. So I putted, and I putted, and I waited. I putted, and I waited, and I waited, and I finally realized we'd gotten our wires crossed. So back in those days, there were no cell phones. I had no telephone number for Larry. I knew where the hotel was, so I did the logical thing, which I'd done at some other tournaments. I picked up my bag and started walking to the road, and I was going to hitchhike back to the hotel. I got a ride, and I got a ride back to that hotel, but to this day, I still contend that I never would have won that tournament unless we had had our wires crossed and I'd been able to sit on that putting green for a long time, building confidence, getting my distance control down. It was wonderful. So that was it. I did play that tournament uniquely in my Bronco colors. I had a special pair of pants for those of you that were a Bronco when we wore our sport coats the day of the games. I had a pair of purple pants that matched that sport coat and a purple shirt, and that's what I had for a Bronco. And you may have seen some pictures of me on the State High School from the Tribune showing that outfit. The high school tournament was held the spring of my senior year. And despite winning a whole lot of local tournaments and regional tournaments and having a very good youthful career, I didn't get recruited at all to play golf. Growing up on the northernmost golf course in the continental United States doesn't exactly bring golf recruiters to come check you out for college, and I didn't get any attention. But what I did get, like 8 others on our 1971 third place state high school tournament team, was an offer to play hockey in college. And I took that offer up to attend Princeton University, enrolled in the engineering school, walked on to the golf program, played golf early in the fall and during the spring, played hockey in the late fall and the winter, and had wonderful success in both teams that freshman year. What I realized at the end of the year, however, that with the academic rigors of Princeton and engineering program, I couldn't handle 2 programs, or two sports, and I had to choose one, which was very difficult to do, but I chose to follow my true passion, which was golf, and I continued to play that for 4 years and had a really fun and fine collegiate career. My passion for playing golf sure hasn't diminished at all with age. I still post over 100 rounds a year into the handicap system. I play multiple times per week. When I'm not playing, you'll probably find me out practicing, trying to refine or focus on some weaknesses in my game. I play with a bunch of guys where we live in West Tennessee, which is between Memphis and Nashville. Have wonderful fellowship in that game. Just a great time around our town. And still do play competitively, but I play it much more on a local basis and rather than chasing around the state, playing state or national tournaments. So that's kind of it from a background on golf. I thought about how I might want to wrap up the discussion this evening, and it brought me back to my love of the falls. And I just can't end the talk without mentioning the great time that I had growing up in this town. Without mentioning the appreciation I have for the opportunities the town provided for people that wanted to take advantage of it to play any sport they wanted, and the athletic opportunities you get coming out of that. It was spectacular. And I also have such a great deal of pride when people hear my northern accent in Tennessee, or my unique northern pronunciation of Minnesota words in Tennessee, and they say, these are the words I always get, "You're not from around here, are you?" Okay, I've lived in Tennessee for 30 years. And I said, no, I'm from a little town you might have heard about in northern Minnesota. It's called International Falls. And then I launch into what it was like growing up here. I lived in various locations with my career with Procter & Gamble, but I'll always call International As I close, I'd just like to say again, I'm honored to be inducted. I'd like to offer again my congratulations to the other honorees and say thank you to the committee that has put this wonderful weekend together. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next inductee is Dan Malley. Here was what was written about Malley in the Daily Journal as a preview to the 1966 state hockey tournament. Malley is another Bronco mainstay of the past 4 seasons. Dan is a rugged performer, wearing down opposing players as he battles for possession of the puck. His playmaking and passing ability have helped set up many goals for his line mates and defensemen. Dan is another Bronco that many observers felt was overlooked in the All-State Tournament picks a year ago. His flashy performance throughout the tournament, and especially against Bloomington in the 7-0 final, it was felt earned him a spot on the honor squad as he scored a hat trick in that game. Here are Dan's career stats for the Broncos. He scored 60 goals, 53 assists for 113 points. Those stats include 28 goals and 19 assists in his junior season and 23 goals and 29 assists in his senior season. Here's what is written on Dan's plaque. Danny Dan Malley was born on November 13, 1947 in International Falls. As a Bronco, Dan was an 8-time letter winner, 1 time in football, 4 times for hockey, 1 time for baseball, and 2 times for track and field. Dan was on numerous championship teams in the recreation program in the squirt, peewee, and bantam years leading up to high school. Dan was eligible to play varsity as a freshman, following Coach Ross getting approval from the school board to allow freshmen to participate, which led to 4 years of Malley contributing to Bronco hockey. Dan played in 4 consecutive Minnesota State Hockey Championships, winning 3 consecutively from 1964 to 1966. As a member of the 64 team, they went 22-1-3, 27-0 in 1965, and 28-0 in 1966. Dan was also a part of the historic 59-game winning streak and graduated from Falls High School in 1966. Malley was recruited by the University of Minnesota Duluth and played 4 years of hockey for the Bulldogs. Malley played defense for the Bulldogs in 74 games, tallied 17 points, along with 61 penalties for 128 minutes served. Following college, Malley took a job in sales. Malley married Maureen, and they raised 2 children. He retired from Hershey Company in 2002, allowing for more time in the outdoors hunting and fishing. At the time of his induction, Dan and Maureen reside in Duluth, Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, 2023 Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame inductee, Dan Malley.
Thank you. When I look out in the crowd tonight, I realize how good the athletes in Falls were, because they had such following that when we had away games, it was almost like they were home games because we had so much support. And it's really good, glad to see all the people that are here along with the athletes. And I recognize a lot of people that have followed us over the years. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the Hall of Famers here tonight, and this is quite an honor to be elected with this group of people. I mean, I don't think I can find a better group of people with an extensive athletic careers as these groups. Congratulations. First, I'd like to thank my family, because with their support, I probably wouldn't have played hockey. And I know my family gave up a lot so I could play hockey. And just a little funny note, my late sister Marilyn gave up her figure skates because that was the first pair of skates I skated with. I took them down to the rink without her knowing about it. I didn't like the picks on the front, So I brought him over to the guy that sharpened skates and had him grind them off. So when I got home, they ended up to be my skates for the rest of the winter. I spent a lot of time polishing them black. Then I really appreciate all the help over the years that Tim Sheehy gave me. He was always at my back. Him and his family supported me all the way through. And I'll never forget how important they are to me, Tim. And of course, the coaches that I had were all good. The only game that I ever remember losing in any championship was the 1963. All the way from Pee-wees to Bantams and everything. I don't know why that is. But that's the only game I ever remember losing, the teams that we played. And probably because when one goal separated the Falls from winning 5 straight tournaments. A lot of people don't realize that just that one goal cost us 5 in a row. And the way people tell me it would have been more than that, because the teams one year earlier than the 62 team, they would have probably won too. And with Larry giving me the opportunity to play as a 9th grader, it was quite an adjustment, but it only took a few practices to get into with the guys. And a lot of people don't realize that every practice we had was a tryout. Everybody was trying to get on the first, second, or third line. And most of our practices were probably more intense than all of our games. I mean, there was definitely competition. And it was pretty intense. And I'd like to shout out to my teammates, because without them, we all probably wouldn't be where we are today. I mean, we had a great bunch of guys, and all the athletes I played with were unbelievable. And there wasn't one kid on our team that couldn't make probably the first or second line on almost other teams in the state. And one other thing that I want to bring up with our competitiveness with the range teams, I waited till I graduated, and then I went to their hometown and married one of theirs. And even when I see those guys today, they come up, the first thing they tell me is, you know what the happiest day of my life was? I say, no, why? When you guys graduated so we could win a tournament. And they still do that every time I see them. And I'm proud to be part of this, because it means a lot to all of us. And hockey in the Falls gave me a lot. Gave me a college education, great family, great friends, and a little hunting and fishing. And it also gave me, I worked for Procter & Gamble for 4 years too. And that was one of the things that I was, in the interview, I'll never forget it. They told me that the only thing that they were interested is how you play as a teammate, how you play as a team. We can teach you anything we want you to know, but we know that you've played on all these teams in your championships, and I know you can play with other people and get along, and that was one of the most important things that they said. In closing, I'd like to thank Kevin Grover for helping me out through this whole deal, and the rest of the committee members. And without those people, these banquets probably wouldn't happen, and I hope it keeps going forever. Thank you.
I've got a game worn hockey stick Dan Malley used in 65 or 66, I'm not sure. When we were cleaning out the Ross family garage,
we found it. I put it in my garage. It's been sitting there. And I thought, you know, this doesn't belong in my hands. It belongs in Danny's hands. I don't know if he ever scored a goal with it, but I can bet some opponent got a bad shin or one over the forearm or something. I think it might be when it says beat alumni on there in his writing, so it might have been in '65 when Tony scored on lefty too. Enjoy it, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Our first team inductee tonight is the 1964 Bronco boys hockey team. The team had a final record of 22-4-1, and I'd like to take a closer look at a couple of those losses from that season, if I might. In Game 2 of the season, the Broncos lost to Eveleth by a score of 5-3, but would defeat the Golden Bears later in the year 2-0. The Broncos beat Duluth East 2-1 mid-season, but then lost to the Greyhounds 3-2 in the Region 7 championship game. Now, some of you might ask, well, if they lost in the Region championship game, how did they play in the state tournament? Well, in the state of Minnesota from 1949 to 1974, there was something called the back door. A losing team from Region 7 or Region 8 championship game would advance to the state tournament as the Region 3 representative. So the Broncos, despite the loss, got to play at state. And it just so happens that the Broncos would play Duluth East in the quarterfinals of the state tournament. The Falls defeated East 2-1 to start the 59-game winning streak that we are all very aware of. My point in all of this is that the 63-64 Bronco hockey team had opportunities to defeat teams that had beaten them earlier in the season, and they did just that, and that is the sign of a great team. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to introduce the team members. First, those that are not here tonight. Peter Hegg, Marshall Sether, Gary Wood, student manager Tim Lundeen, assistant coach Kevin Kennedy. Now, in attendance, I ask each individual to come up to accept a framed certificate, a history of Bronco hockey book, and a plaque if they are receiving one. And to help us to do that, our current Bronco hockey team members, Asher Keep and Cooper Crandall. Accepting on behalf of Keith Boleyn, his widow Melody. And then we'll ask each person coming up to stay here so that we can get a team picture with everybody. It'll be okay, Melody, I promise. I'm right over here. Accepting on behalf of Tony Kern, Buzzy Christensen. And I believe that Buzzy is also going to be accepting on behalf of Pete Fitchuk. Accepting on behalf of Brian Glennie, his brother Rich Glennie. Accepting on behalf of Larry Roach, his wife Audrey. Accepting on behalf of head coach Larry Ross, his son Steve Ross, and Steve will also be accepting on his own behalf as he was a member of that team. Ron Beck. Pete Cronkite. Tom Hoagland. Dan Malley. Kip Narbo. Tim Sheehy. Ron Weam. And accepting the induction on behalf of the entire team, Captain Les Eklund. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the 1964 hockey team. If you'd like to come up and take photos, this would be a good time to do so. Don't hesitate to come up and take some pictures. All right, everybody's got their photos? All right, Les, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks to the Athletic Hall of Fame. It's a great honor. You've heard about getting butterflies before you get up to talk and all this. Well, I've got some history with this building here. We had a speech teacher up in that corner of the building. His name is Mr. Cisco. Right? And so the first time I was in his class, I was scared spitless. I mean, he said, okay, we're going to come in here. Now, here in a couple of weeks, you're going to stand. Well, we sure miss the fellows that have passed on, and they've been recognized tonight, and that's great. And so one other thing I'd like to do is I did bring some folks with me from the state of Washington, and my wife of 56 years, Judith Nyberg Eklund, is back there. She was the biggest hockey fan I think we had, and I thought, well, if I don't introduce some of these folks, I may not get to 57 on this anniversary stuff. So anyway, my daughter, Jennifer, is sitting at our table. She gave us 3 grandsons, and currently we're getting 8 great-grandchildren here in the next couple days. So that's good. Now, my son Jason and his wife DL have come from Washington. And then we have my brother Paul, my younger brother Paul, that he's been hanging around the falls here for a good number of years, and his wife Margie. And then I got to mention Dave Austin. He had a couple of sons that played Bronco hockey too. And we kind of claim him as a relative because it kind of gets tied up in brothers and sisters and sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws. And when you come around here, you don't know who you're related to, so you got to be real careful about what you say. You know, this close-knit town here, International Falls. And then, so the family tree gets kind of convoluted. And Dave was a forester, and he can't even figure it out. So there you go, you know, working for the paper mill. Okay. I think probably, you know, we've talked about some of the, you know, the records we have and all the wins we have, but I'm going to approach it a little differently. I think part of the reason, and it's been mentioned a little bit, is just the great school system we have here, and how we have all that have graduated here really appreciated the education that we got. And then hockey became a big part of that, but if we wouldn't have had the good schools, none of this would have mattered. So, in the town of International Falls, talk about support. My goodness. What other, this is funny. I think I tell people about this in Washington State, and I say, well, yeah, I played for International Falls Broncos. We never had a home game. They said, what do you mean never had a home game? I said, well, we played them all in another country. Right? We'd go across the bridge every night after school, go through customs. Where you going? Hockey practice. Okay, on through. Here come the games. Everybody in the falls moved to Fort Francis, you know, for that time of the, you know, the game was on. And, oh, can you imagine now trying to go through customs to go to a game, a high school game, over in another country? Wow. So, but then they say, well, yeah, we know you played all your games over there. But the teams from the Twin Cities said, yeah, but you have about eight Canadians playing on that team. I said, no, only 4. So we didn't want to disappoint the town. And so we just played our best all the time. And then also our families, and it's been mentioned before too, the support we got from our families, you know, to be able to get out there and play. And we got to talking about all the different rinks in town, you know, the band shellers and the Karsten Loopiers and the 11th Street people and whatnot. And it was because we all lived close to a rink. So we went down there and that's what we did. I saw a T-shirt back here tonight that said, all the times when we were the icebox of the nation, 52 below on some days. There, well, what did we do when we were living here? We put the skates on and went skating. Anyhow, so enough has been said about the records, I guess. although this was the team that started the streak. You know, got to start somewhere, right, Tim? And so, you know, and if it hadn't been for a goal or two, like you said, the rest would have been history, would have been an incredible amount of wins. So I've got to say a couple things about Coach Ross. When I was I was a sophomore, one of the first practices I went to, and he would say, okay, Eklund, you're a winger. You play over on this side of the ice, okay? And you're either in the corner or you're in front of the net, either end of the ice, okay? You're either defending somebody in front or you're dinging the puck out of the corner. Okay, coach. Well, what do I do when I get the puck? He said, well, just look up. We're a position team. You got to know where your teammates are. So you look up. You find your centerman, who's kind of waiting around for you to pass him the puck. Right? Wingers, can you relate? So what did he do? What did the centerman do? He gets the puck, goes down and scores. Huh, there you go. Well, I never met a centerman. I played for 3 different centermen in 3 years. I never met a centerman that could hear the words, pass the puck. You could say it as loud as you wanted, you'd never get the puck. Well, not ever. I did score a few goals, had a few assists. But, be that as it may, we worked as a team. And I think Coach Ross was one of the better ones at figuring out what your abilities were, and that's where he put you. So, I was happy that he got the puck. Give it to Tim or Jim and let them go down and do their thing. And I think that's what made us a really good team. The other thing Coach Ross said to me too, he says, you know, we're a position hockey team. Okay, you say, you wingers, you're over here. You're defenseman, huh, Malley, you didn't have to skate the whole length of the ice, ever. You know, you guys went from the goal line to the blue line. That was it. Well, no, that's changed nowadays, and I know you were an active defenseman. But anyhow, so if you're in your position, I knew where Tim would be. You know, I knew where Pete Haig would be. So you'd get the puck, pass it to him, and back and forth. But Coach Ross would say, you pass the puck. We're a skating team. He said, we're not going to do any of this dump and chase crap. He said, we're not going to dump it in the end and go chase and find it. Now, the game has totally changed now. And that's all I see in these new teams that are playing. But we passed the puck. We made plays. We won. Okay. My sister-in-law, Margie, said, don't talk too long. Right, Margie? Okay. Yeah, I've been to a lot of, I've listened to a lot of sermons in my life, and they all say, you know, after about 10 minutes, you lose the whole congregation anyway, so you might as well just sit down. So anyway, I'm going to sit down here pretty quick. I think the thing that I want to emphasize is that we learned good life habits. We learned good leadership skills. We learn to practice hard and consistently to get better and better and attain our goals. You learn how to be a winner in life with a humble spirit, but celebrate your victories. Getting a dry throat here. Okay, and also, the last thing I'd like to say in closing is just thank God for your accomplishments.
Thank you, Les. Our final inductee tonight is the 1972 Bronco boys hockey team. If you are a high school hockey fan, then the book, Puck Heaven, should be a part of your library. Trivia questions about the state hockey tournament is the main focus, and you'll drive yourself crazy trying to answer the questions. Here's one of the questions. You can see if you can answer this. You ready? When International Falls won their 6th state crown in 1972, who was the acrobatic goalie for Larry Ross's Broncos? There you got it, okay? And the answer, according to the book, is Pete Wasilowicz. Wasilowicz made 32 saves in the 3-2 championship game over Grand Rapids, 38 stops in the 2-1 overtime triumph over Minneapolis Southwest, and 27 saves in a first-round win over Bemidji. Wasilowicz was a 4-year regular at North Dakota. All right, it's going to get tougher. You ready? Here's the next question. What 4 players made all tourney for International Falls in 1972 as the Broncos won their last of Larry Ross's 6 state titles? Who was named All-State? Brown? All right, here we go. The answer, according to the book, Paul Brown, who scored the go-ahead goal in the 3-2 finale against Grand Rapids and the overtime winner in a 2-1 semifinal win over Minneapolis Southwest. Craig Dahl had 4 goals and an assist. Jim Knapp was a force in his own zone, and Peter Wasilowicz was brilliant in nets. So again, Puck Heaven, that's the book. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to introduce the team members. First, those that are not with us this evening, John Lukacic, Mark Carrier, Paul Green, Dave Hansen, Charlie Holland, Al Karsnia, and John Murray. Pardon me? Charlie's here. Sorry about that. Now, for those in attendance, I ask each individual to come forward to accept a framed certificate, a history of Bronco hockey book, and a plaque if they are receiving one. Accepting on behalf of head coach Larry Ross, son Steve Ross. Charlie Holland, please. Mike Bolin. Dave Brown. Paul Brown. Assistant coach, Terry Burns. Steve Johnson. Jim Jorgensen. Jim Knapp. Robert Buzzy LaFond. Jim Lundquist. Rick McBride. Chris Raboyne. Don Reuter. Cal Sandbeck. Peter Wazilovich. And accepting the induction on behalf of the entire team, Captain Craig Dahl. And if you'd like to come up and take photos, please do so. Everybody got your pictures? Okay, guys. Craig, come on up.
Well, I think it was all obvious that there's been a lot of hockey success here at International Falls, and we all wanted to play for the Broncos. You know, the run of success in the 60s, 5 state championships, 1 runner-up, 1 other state appearance. We wanted to be just like those. We wanted to uphold that and provide that to the people in the town as well. And we especially were excited about being on TV. So that was our only chance. So to win the state tournament, there's typically a building block of events and people, and they need to go your way. And so in International Falls, our first building block was that desire to play on that team, that we're willing to do whatever it took to do that. Our next building block was the opening of Bronco Arena, because it gave us the resources to practice and play on a regular basis. And that was huge in our development, and that didn't happen until 1969. So that was a big step for us. Our next building block was Dunn Sampson, who was just a pipe fitter in the mill, but he was also an Olympic defenseman. He ran the midget program. He set a positive environment within a good sense of team. He was also good at teaching hockey. And when we had success, including winning the state tournament in overtime against Edina and tied for 3rd in nationals, following on the footsteps of this other team. Next was Terry Burns. 1972 was his 2nd year with the program. He installed a faster pace for our team and a tough forecheck that was unique for the time. The next was Larry Ross, who I believe was a great motivator and had a unique talent of putting lines together and getting guys who could play together. So a good example was right after Christmas of our senior year, he pulled Paulie Brown off the B team and with Buzz LaFond and Jim Jorgensen created a line that had tremendous success as we went into the playoffs that year. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. With all these building blocks, including a 1971 state tournament 3rd place achievement, we went out and lost to Grand Rapids in our first game. So, but we regrouped and we won the next 6 in a row. But then we tied Edina, and then we won 1, then we lost to Fort Francis. So at this point in the season, we were 6-2-1. We came back, we won 5 in a row before losing to Hibbing, and finished the regular season with a 4-game winning streak and a 16-3-1 record. But we were peaking at the right time, and we swept through the playoffs with scores of 9-3 over Gilbert, 5-1 over Cloquet, 6-2 over Virginia, and 5-1 over Grand Rapids. And as was discussed, this was the era of the back door. We would run into Grand Rapids again. Our outstanding play continued in the state tournament. In the first round, we beat Bemidji 8-3. Now, there's just a couple of different things that happened during the year, and I just kind of inserted them here. So the first was our first playoff game of against Greenway at Hibbing. And first thing that happened, we got to the rink, we're downstairs, and you can imagine a basement of an arena, and the lights went out. And we sat in that pitch black for about 10 minutes, with no communication, and it's not exactly the best motivating technique. And we came out and played a pretty flat first period. So we came in, sat down, and Bernsey let us know that it was a pretty flat first period, and so we all agreed with him. And but we didn't get to, the time was up, and we were like, why don't we get to go out? Well, finally someone came and knocked on the door and said, Coach, come here. And so he talked to him, and we went out on the rink. Well, it turns out the Zamboni quit. So the Zamboni's at one end of the arena, and it's got to go all the way to the other end. And there's a little ramp it has to go up. So the referees come to each team and said, we'd like some players from each team to push the Zamboni down to the other end. No, this is true. And so, and guess what the guys from Green Bay said? We're winning. We're not going to do anything. We're going to just stand here. So our defensemen, and they were big enough, they pushed the Zamboni down pretty well. but they had to get it up this ramp. So it took 2 tries. They got it up the ramp. Now the story gets better because although right away Greenway scored again. Now we're down 2-0. We're like, what the heck? And unfortunately, Al Karsnick couldn't be with us tonight, but Al, he scored a goal while sitting on the bench. So he was coming down, and he had the puck, and he flipped it on goal, and he went off. He was right there, and he went on the bench. And the Greenway had a sophomore goalie, and he's just standing there. And if he just stands there, this rolling puck hits him. But he thought, hey, I got an idea. I'll glove it. So as he reaches down to glove it, his stick comes up. He misses it with his glove. It rolls in the net by 2 inches. Okay? And I look over at Al, and he's sitting on the bench. So we were pretty, we didn't look back. We won that game, I think 9-3. But yeah, so that was one of our bigger goals, and it kind of broke a slow spot in our roster. Then we went to the state tournament, and we were the first game of the tournament. And then you have, the introductions of all the players from both teams, and that takes a while. And then there's the national anthem, and that takes a while. We get ready to drop the puck, and they go, oh, wait, the glass is broken behind the net. And like today at XL Energy, they changed that in like 45 seconds. Well, back then, it's like a school project. It took like 15 minutes. We didn't know what to do, so we'd go out and skate for a while. We were like, well, geez, we're going to get tired. So let me go sit down. Oh, we're going to get flat. I mean, we went out and skated again, and then we're like, what are we supposed to do? Well, finally, they got that fixed, and we got the plexiglass back in, and we went out, and okay, so we go out. We just had that happen, and we're coming. Davy Brown's going up the left side, dumps a puck off the boards, cuts to the middle. Defenseman sticks him and trips him. Referee raises his hand. Pete races to the net so we can get the extra attacker out. Only the referee was calling a delayed offside, not a delayed penalty. It means he gets the puck, passes it to one guy, shoots from 40 feet to the empty net. We're down 1-0. I go to the faceoff, and I'm thinking, I don't think we were supposed to win this game because I've never seen that happen. So now, our strong play continued in the first period against Minneapolis Southwest in the semifinals. And we were up 1-0 only, but we really outplayed them. However, in the second period, that flip-flopped, and they really outplayed us, and it was 1-1 after 2. There was no scoring in the third period, and in overtime, Jim Jurgensen forechecked the puck loose. 2 Southwest defensemen both went for the puck. Jurgie beat him, centered out front, Paulie Brown. He buried it. We were going to the finals. So we were pretty excited about that. Just a note, Paul Brown also scored a double overtime goal the next year against Edina East. So he's in a pretty exclusive club as it relates to overtime goals in the state tournament. So this brings us to the final. We didn't play very well in the first 2 periods, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And we found ourselves down 1-0. Pete Waslovich's brother worked at the school, had a big reel-to-reel, and taped the games, and we had a copy of the championship game. But as Jim Lundquist said after the first time he saw it, he said, I've only seen 2 periods, but I'm pretty sure we'd lose. So now it's also been written that Coach Ross said, if you can't go out and give 100% in the third period, he said, then take your skates off right now. Now, just as he said that, Al Karsnick leaned down and tie his skates, and we all thought, holy cow, Al's leaving the ring. He was only kidding, Al, get back here. So anyway, with that sent out, we went out and played Bronco hockey. Dave Brown scored an awesome backhand goal, best I've ever seen, on a great pass from Jurgie on a 2-on-1. The Falls forecheck, the Burnsley forecheck, Don Ruder set up Paul Brown for a quick goal. And then we got another insurance goal, which we needed when Grand Rapids scored a late power play goal. But so do you see the building blocks? They all came into play. The right lines, the Burgundy forecheck, and the best goaltending I've ever seen. And having played with Pete, midgets in high school, and having a different goalie in college, I'm like, can we get Pete? Because this is not working. But our 4 big defensemen, Steve Johnson, it's tough to play against. Also great at rushing the puck. Consistent forechecking, we had great two-way forwards. It took all of us, and that's why I think it's fitting for us to go in the Hall of Fame as a team. So thank you for this honor.
Thank you, Craig. Well, we did it again. 11th time we made it through. Everything went well. Want to remind those of you that won prizes in the silent auction, please make sure you step over here and write your checks. You also may be looking at the flowers on your table and say, I'd like to take one of those home with me. For $20, you can do so. You can drop that money off with Chris as well. You just can't take them. You got to drop a $20 bill off or a check. So Chris will be over here to take your money. Again, I want to thank the Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame Committee for the great work they did this year. You guys did outstanding. I want to thank all the inductees. You guys were awesome. And congratulations and thanks for everybody for being here this evening.